Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to My Degree is Black TV. I am Jamie Latin Sims, Prairie View A&M alumnus and co-founder of My Degree is Black.
I am J. Albert Nichols, honorary PVAMU alumnus. That's all y'all need to know.
And then we got a special guest here that we'll talk about him a little bit more a little bit later, but Mr. Vernon Blanson, who also represents the mighty Prairie View A&M University, the prestigious, profound, excellent, magnificent, all those great acronyms that you could think about. So we are here. Man, who are we? Who are we?
So I'm glad you asked that. Let me go and let these people know. I feel like this is
you come with your Easter speech?
You know, look, I was just about to say, I feel like this is when you pledge and then, you know, you be waiting. So, you know, at probate, and I'll be like, I'm ready. Pulled off the mask, you know what I'm saying? Everybody yelling. No. So My Degree is Black. It's simple. It's a social movement. We use apparel to push a message out, and that message is to change the narratives that are associated, the negative narratives and stigmas that are associated with HBCUs, and we do that by celebrating the rich history and culture of our prestigious institutions, as well as telling your story. So who better to talk about the HBCU experience than those that have had it? And so we use those stories to drive enrollment. We use that to drive alumni interaction and funding into HBCUs. And so this platform, Alumni Talks, gives you an opportunity to dig in a little bit deeper with those HBCU alum, and we're excited about it. Yeah. Boys are starting in comments all like, y'all don't have no chill. Y'all start as soon.
So yeah, just shout out to I thought this was a Vernon's fraternity brother, but he throwing up the yo, so I couldn't tell if that was Nigel Howard Redmond or if that was somebody else that was a Kappa. I didn't know who it was, but yes, yo to you too, Nigel Redmond.
I knew Nigel would be somewhere lurking.
Absolutely, man. So like John said, man, we tell the stories during this time of the pandemic. Greatness can come out of a recession or a depression or anything that you might want to call it. So we've always done interviews and video interviews with people and photo shoots. And so now we've kind of taken it to the live platform and been able to interview, just since everybody's at home, interview these alumnus of these HBCUs, so we can let other alumnus know, you know, what's going on, continue to share the greatness of what's the productive people that are made at various institutions that were made for Black people, and also teenagers, their parents, and everybody, because like John said, we're trying to change the narrative of the HBCU experience. And unfortunately, people still believe that HBCUs are, you get a second-class degree. And I am so fortunate to know that that is incorrect. I was told in high school to go to a historically white institution. I ended up going to Prairie View for a summer, and that I realized that, man, it's not second class, one, and then two, I don't have to take my greatness somewhere to get, as John may say, like, they don't need to affirm me to make me great. Like, so my affirmation came from my people, and it felt great. Yeah. So we have Vernon Blanson on here, and he is a product of Prairie View A&M University. And so, man, welcome, man. We appreciate you being here.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. Thank you.
Man, we're gonna get right into it, and we're gonna go into raised and made, man. So that's our segment where you let us know where you were raised and where you were made, and just a little bit about that as we go into just the rest of the conversation. So yeah, let us know about where you were raised and where you were made.
Who you repping and where you stepping?
Is the echo okay?
Yeah, you got it. It's good.
Yeah, so my name is Vernon Blanson. As Jamie said, I did go to Prairie View A&M University. I got there in 2001 and I graduated in 2005. I'm from Stafford, Texas, so I want to say Houston for those of you who don't know, but if there's Houstonian listeners, right now, they're going to say that ain't Houston. So Stafford's on the southwest side. It's in Fort Bend area. And I grew up and I was born and raised there. So I went through that whole entire school system, Stafford Elementary, middle school, high school, all of that. My interpretation of my experience at Stafford was to me, it kind of looked like the United Nations. It seemed like at the time I was there that there were equal numbers, or at least it looked like equal numbers of basically everything, right? So I didn't come from an environment that was predominantly white like some of my classmates in college. I also didn't come from an environment that was predominantly black. I actually did just have a bunch of friends that looked like every spectrum of the rainbow, so to speak. And so I went to Prairie View A&M University. I had a friend that was talking about it. I applied. I got a presidential scholarship. And I do remember I was a little hesitant about the experience because I had never heard of it, number one. So we'll get to that in a minute because this is important. I think it's an important part of the story. When people talk about what are HBCUs good for, well, they're good for people who might not be able to get into other schools. They're good for people who have that in their family, who have the HBCU rich experience in their family. But here's where we leave people out. We leave out people, I think, who are like me, who it's not in their family. Their families didn't talk about it. And it wasn't because of a reason or a stigma. They just didn't talk about it, right? And so there is a part of an experience that you don't even know that you're missing, right? And you don't get it until you get there. So I went to Prairie View, and the moment I stepped on the campus, it was different. It was definitely an adjustment, I think. And then I majored in political science when I was there with the intent to go to law school. And along the way in college, I made a lot of friends. I pledged. I did all that stuff. I did the college things that you'd want to do. And then when I graduated, here's what I discovered. I ended up fulfilling a need that I did not know I was burning to have. And that need was learning to be myself amongst everybody, right? That need was seeing people who look like me who were in power. So the administration at Prairie View was all black or mostly black. Financial aid was black. The people in the cafeteria were black. Students were black. A lot of the teachers were black. And so I got to be in this kind of experiment where you got to see how things function when we all run it. Because here's what the world will teach you. And if there's any younger listeners right now, this is important. What the world will teach you is if black people are running something, it's going to be ghetto, right? We use that term derogatorily. It's not going to be up to par. It's not going to be as good as our white counterparts. And what I found was that everybody who had a role at Prairie View, from custodial agents to people in the cafeteria, to the students, to the people in the different offices, they all tried to play their role as best they could, right? There are the students who were sending their overpaid checks back home because their family couldn't eat, right? Wasn't exposed to that before I went to Prairie View. There were the other black students who had Benzes on campus because their parents were loaded. Wasn't exposed to that necessarily in high school. So I think that the experience was needed. It was necessary. I think it's made all the difference. And I know I went a little long on this, but I think that stuff was kind of important to get out there early for the listeners who are listening right now.
No, man, you own it. I mean, we've said, I think now every episode that HBCUs are the one place where you see every level of black on every, from a socioeconomic space to a psychological space to a cultural space, upbringing. Like, you see all of those pieces working together in excellence. Like, and everybody knows everybody, right? Like, think about Miss Pat, right? Like at lunch, like she was a mother to thousands of students.
Yeah.
You know, like that was a safe space. You know,
well, I'll tell you how serious it is. It's so serious that if you tell me you went to PV during a certain time and you don't know Miss Pat and you don't know O-Rock and you don't know about the trailers and you don't know some of these other things, I'm not going to believe that you went there, because these certain core tenets are so interwoven into PV that, like, I don't believe you if you say Miss Pat didn't yell at you at least one time.
Exactly.
I don't buy it. I'm sorry.
I'll let you slide in when you had used up all your points.
Yes, when you didn't have no money and she let you go get a piece of chicken or something. Exactly.
Yep.
I don't buy it.
You know, or if you don't remember, taking, I want to, indict myself, but taking taking jugs and filling them up at Alumni Hall because you had birthday parties and all of that stuff in UC, right? Like grabbing a cake because it was somebody's birthday. You like, yo,
exactly.
Slide this joint in the backpack.
We took an entire yellow cake. We didn't take it back to UC, but we took an entire yellow cake from the stand and brought it to our table because it was my line brother's birthday and we forgot to get him the cake. And it was okay. Now, obviously, you don't want to do that all the time, but it was okay. And those are, those are some of the experiences, man, that you look back on. And what's up? Oh, you look back on some of those experiences and it helps.
Definitely. Absolutely. Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Man, shout out to Eta Gamma Alpha Phi Alphas for tuning in. John wouldn't let me put my shirt on the wall, so I just throw my black and gold, my degree is black shirt.
Look, I'm just trying to keep this narrative of excellence up. And
I'm with you, bro. I'm with you. I'm definitely with you. Man, Vernon, you said, and it's funny, like when we get those guests in, and they're just, I don't even know the word, just, it's so much to ask because you got so many. I just shared the post on my personal page. I was like, Vernon already dropping nuggets. We only 14 minutes in, But it's so much when the experience and how you got there. So first you flex a little bit. I want to throw that out of there because everybody seems to flex when they come on our show. You're like, yeah, I got the presidential scholarship. Yeah, I get it. I got the distinguished. You know what I'm saying? But no shade. I was a tier lower than what you got. So maybe that was that Stafford education versus the North Shore one. I don't know.
I can't comment on that.
but with that being said, was Prairie View the only place that you got? I know it wasn't the only place you got accepted, but when it came to scholarships, what was the deciding factor for you since you hadn't heard of it, but you said it was for you? Like, did you take a tour? Like, what was it? What got you there?
Yeah. So I'll be transparent with the audience as well. So I went to Purdue University in the summer. So like you did your summer program at PV and you ended up at PV. I went to Purdue University for a business program. And so they came and recruited me to go. I went up there. I did like 21 hours in 7 weeks, man. It's crazy. And they told me that if I did the funding or if I did it the right way, that they would get the funding. And I remember on like the last day of the program, they came and they told me that it was a situation where the funding ran out. And they said, well, if you can just get your parents to pay the $23,000 a year to go there for out-of-state fees, then we'll cover you the second semester. And I was like, now, why would I believe that? Right. So I didn't believe it. I was like, already your business program is losing merit because you're not doing good business with me. Right. That's a problem.
Right.
And I just refused to put my parents in that position. So I did take a tour actually of PV and the scholarship was on the table. I hadn't responded to it yet. I took a tour. When I got on the campus, my roommate, I don't know if he's listening, but his name is Mark Crawford. His father, I want to say, was like the dean of not admissions, but over housing. He was something over housing. And it was pretty important because when I got to the campus and I told him I think I want to go there, he made a phone call and then I was in the system within like an hour and a half, right?
Wow.
And so Mark and I were actually roommates for the first 2 years. And so I think that what I will say to people is if you have any kind of stigma, and it doesn't have to be a bad stigma, right? Like stigmas don't always have to be negative. They can be anything. But if you have a stigma about going to a Black college, because the stigma that I had was, well, I've never heard of it, so it must not be that great because I've never heard of it, right? That's all it was.
Black people got colleges, whole universities.
Man, I'll say this to be as respectful as I can. I think, and I hope we get into this later, my family did not really center on like ethnic issues that much. We weren't a we don't see color family. It wasn't that kind of crap, but it was more like we just didn't talk about that, right? Like we didn't talk about that kind of stuff. So I mean, think about growing up in Houston and not knowing TSU and not knowing Prairie View. My uncle, Jamie and your line brother, Dan, his dad went to Southern. I didn't know that till I went to PV, right? Had no clue. So the only stigma that I had was that I just never heard of the school. So I didn't think it less than. I just never heard of it. And what I would tell your listeners is is we always say don't judge books by covers and things like that. I think that's overly simplified. I think sometimes books have covers so that you can determine if you want to read the book or not, right? So we got to be real careful about that. But what I will say is that sometimes it can change your life. And that's what you have to remember, man. You don't ever know what things are being brought into your life for a reason. Not to get all like spiritual or universal and cosmic and all that, but you don't know what decisions are being laid in front of you and how that decision, good or bad, can impact you down the road. And I think that that's important. You know what I mean? And so graduation day, man, I cried like a baby because I knew it would never be the same. I knew it wouldn't.
Yeah.
I just walked out the baby doll knowing it wouldn't be the same ever again. And it hasn't been.
Yeah. No, that's real. It's definitely a utopia for many, you know.
Absolutely.
And you foresaw that it wouldn't be the same before you left. I think some people, they don't get that shock until after they leave, and they're like, oh, it's almost like a death in the family, you know. It's like, man, I get it, but at the same time, I don't get it. So let's go backwards a little bit. You talked about the graduation and crying and crying like a baby because you knew you wouldn't have that. After graduation, Stafford, and then after Purdue, and then now setting foot on Prairie View, you kind of touched on this a little bit, how it was different and it took some adjustment. Tell us about that experience and walking on the campus, whether it was the first day on campus or the first day in class, but just tell us about what that was for you in that transition, what did it look like for you?
Yeah, so honestly, it sounds really funny, but the thing was, I had never seen so many Black people gathered in one place, right? And so I know that sounds, weird.
I was just about to say that. You get on campus and here go all these Black people.
I was like, wow, it's Black people riding skateboards. I mean, it's Black people with braids and dreads. It's Black people walking around with suits and canes for some reason. Don't understand that, but okay, whatever. And so it was just so many, it was so much diversity within the spectrum, right? And I was just like, this is different. I've never seen this before. And then the next question was, well, like, who am I? Like, if all these people are here and they all seem to know, right? They seem to know what it is they want to do and or what they are. Like, where do I fit into this narrative? And that's the thing that's so great about it, is that one, nobody cared. So I got to kind of just develop on my own, right, amongst my friends, but I got to just determine what it was I wanted to be in my personality. And two, I think that I learned, more importantly, to be Black is not to be a certain way, right? There's all kinds of different ways to be Black. And by the way, this applies to every other race too, but we're talking about us right now, right? So you don't have to be, you don't have to talk white, right? And all that kind of stuff that they use that we talk about each other, by the way. You don't have to be hood. You don't have to be hard. You could be sensitive. You could be whatever you want, man. People genuinely, I mean, you're going to get clowned sometimes for some stuff. Let's be real. But for the most part, I think people really want to know, what kind of person you are. And so that was what the adjustment was that I was talking about. It was the people, like seeing so many of us on campus at one time, but it was also trying to adjust myself, right? Because, that's the period in your life where you're really transitioning into becoming a man or woman. And so I was trying to figure out what type of man do I want to become. And that's important because a lot of those traits stick with you and they carry with you as you get older, right? So, people talk about college and how if you do it wrong, then it's just a blip in the radar. But if you do it right, it kind of defines you where you're going. It doesn't define you as a person. You can change, you can wake up tomorrow and change, but it does define sort of where you're going for those few years right after college. And that makes all of the difference, I think, sometimes. So it was important, man. It was a good growth exercise. It was extremely uncomfortable. I remember one person, like a professor, when I was a freshman, I had this thing where like I wore like khakis and like button down shirts with like the sleeves rolled up and like these, I used to call them Kappa shades. And a professor walked up to me, man, and he was like, hey, aren't you supposed to be out on the quad or whatever with your brothers? And I said, what are you talking about? And he's like, oh, you ain't a Kappa? And I was like, oh my God. I went back to my room and changed clothes just like that, right? I did not want to be perceived that way. It was just a weird experience. It was a weird experience. I remember I went to a job fair freshman year. The only suit that I had was like a cream colored suit. I wore the suit. All I had, right?
It's a Sunday.
So, man, listen. I looked like I was about to read the notes from the kids thing, man. And somebody tapped me on the shoulder and they pulled me aside and they were like, "Yo, You got to go back to your room, take the suit off. If you have a darker suit, wear the darker suit, but don't wear that. Bro, I didn't know. But the fact that somebody tapped me on the shoulder and said it and didn't embarrass me, right? Like, I didn't take it in an embarrassing way at all. They were direct. They were quick and to the point. They were like, yo, I just don't want you to get yourself embarrassed. You need that kind of guidance. I'm not saying you can't get that at a predominantly white school, but I'm saying I got it at Prairie View, and it was important to me.
Yeah.
I remember Dr. I think it was either Dr. Kirby, Dr. Frazier, it was one of the two during the summer of STEM, because this is how I got introduced to Prairie View. Well, I got introduced to Prairie View before then, but my first on-campus experience was there, and I remember them saying something that didn't resonate with me until I had experiences at other universities. And they said that HBCUs, Prairie View in particular, is one of the only remaining teaching institutions. Like, it's not a research institution. And so the focus is on cultivating lives, not cultivating as much money as you can to have these new projects and all of those things. Yes, we'll have them, but those are to serve the students. And I think that those moments, I don't know anybody that's been to an HBCU that does not have a story about somebody pulling them to the side, somebody calling them out in a loving, accountable way, somebody looking out for them, like one of those stories, right? Like that's just, like, everybody's there. It's like a family reunion every day. Your auntie, your cousins, your mama, your daddy, your sisters, your brothers, they all there for 4 to 5 years, man. It's
and think about it, right? Like, it is idiotic to wear a white suit to a job fair, but I didn't know, right? So if you don't know something, then how do you learn unless somebody teaches you?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
It didn't even occur to me when I saw people walking into the building that I'm the only one in this suit. Look, to anybody listening, the thing is not the suit, right? Who cares about that? Like, Obama wore a tan suit and he's president of the United States. Don't matter. But the point is that somebody pulled me rather to the side in a non-embarrassing fashion. And they were able to tell me, hey, you can't do this, or you shouldn't do this, right? I'm advising you not to do this. And you trust it almost immediately, because why would they lead you astray on something that important? And so I just think it was important, man. It's one of the few. There's a couple of moments that stand out to me, but I remember this distinctly on my freshman year. It was hot as hell that day, and I remember it. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this, Jay, and then I'll be done, so you can continue on with the interview. But what you just said, though, somebody pulling you to the side, right? Like, so if we unpack that and we peel that onion a bit more, right? Like, the reason that as a Black student who is our professional, who's at this career fair and sees this young Black man coming in here dressed wrong, right? Saying, hey, look, let me look out for you, right? Because you're not in a space of scarcity, right? Mm-hmm. When people come to Prairie View, they come for Black folks. That's what they're coming for, which is why they come to TV, right? So there's this idea of operating out of abundance that happens at our university. So I don't mind telling somebody, hey, look, go check this out, go fix this, let me help you out with this, or what have you. It's not 10 of us that's fighting for one spot. Like, we don't have the same experience at an HBCU that we have at a PWI, historically white institution. I've been to a very diverse one, U of H. I've been to a very private white one at St. Joseph's University in Philadelphia. And like, when you have a bunch of us and everybody's coming to get it, like, it's hey, sure, let me help you out. I'll look out for you. I wonder if that experience would be the same, and if that same situation would have played out that way had you not been at an HBCU, at a job fair where you have a smaller group of Black people that are vying for positions, when they aren't even the priority on that list of who's being hired. You know what I mean? Like. Right. And I think that abundance, that richness, like, HBCUs are really like Wakanda. They really
before it became like in the movie, right?
Right.
I agree.
Yeah, man. It's good. Anyway, I'm off my soapbox, Jay.
Nah, you good, man. No, they definitely are historical landmarks, and I think you've expressed that too, especially for Black people. I think we've said this every week too. that you can be a part of the culture and still have a culture shock. You know.
Yes.
So I think that's important for people to know. You know.
Yeah.
I agree.
When we went back to PV, what, a year ago, 2 years ago, like on campus, and we were having a culture shock. Like, oh my God, like all of these new groups of people have been able to kind of find their own home and their own like so that be able to relive that experience multiple times throughout your life as you go back to HBCUs.
Yeah, I think if companies really want diversity training, they should just send their people to HBCU for like 2 weeks. You know, I think you're
gonna learn some things.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't say half of the ignorant stuff you say on a daily basis that you like to call naive. You know.
Yes.
So,
Exactly.
Vernon, what did your family and your close friends see that the development happening with you? Like you said, you started to develop into who you were and what you were at the place you were being made. But when you went back to where you were raised, was it noticeable to other people?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that my family would say, like my cousin, for example, would say, "Oh yeah, you changed after you went there." Now they don't say change in a bad way. I think what they meant was, in a joking, lovingly way, you got blacker after you went there, right? Like it's like we always joke about. They used to joke about that meme. Remember when like Carlton Banks went to South Central LA and he had the bandana on and all that? They were like, "Yeah, you left Carlton and you came back like this." And I was like, "Look, if y'all think I'm militant, y'all don't know the right people, first of all." But if in that joke, are you saying, you know, I care more about my blackness than I did before, or I'm more aware of it than I am before, and I'm willing to fight and protect it more than I am before, then yeah, absolutely. I think I did change. And by the way, if you go to Harvard and you come out the same way you went in, you did it wrong, right? Like you did Harvard wrong. If you go to HCC and you go in one way and come out the same, you did the whole thing wrong. You're supposed to change when you spend 4 years. I mean, or if you're super smart, you spend 3 years or whatever. If you spend that much time in one arena and it doesn't impact you, then I would argue that the experience was not that valuable. The question you might be asking me is like, did I come out maybe worse for wear? To that, I'd say absolutely not. But yeah, I was absolutely. That's when all that political stuff started, right? That's what I think when the foundation was kind of laid is when I got there, and they, you know, we had that class that they made us take where they told us about like Alta Vista Plantation. They told us about how Prairie View came to be and how Texas A&M kind of messed everything up and wouldn't give us our land. All the other HBCUs, by the way, share a similar story. So the commune is very shared across all these, like Morehouse, FAM, Hampton, all that. It's sort of the same story in different parts of the country. So yeah, I came out different. I'm glad I came out different. I'm more importantly, I'm glad that the difference has lasted. I think some people they end up being different temporarily. I think that it altered my course, right? And I created a new kind of line for myself after that course got altered. So yeah, that's important. And to your younger listeners, listen, go to college, come out different, not worse, but different. Like challenge a view that you have on anything, right? On anything, challenge a view. And try to make sure that you are doing what is best for you, as opposed to anybody else, girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever, parents. Try to make sure, and your views will change, by the way, your interests will change, but try to make sure you're trying your best to do what's best for you. Now, I had it easier than most because of the scholarship that I had, it was a full ride. So my parents couldn't tell me what to major in because they weren't paying for anything, right? So a lot of people have to fight that battle. They got to fight the battle between their parents paying, you know, I want you to go into business, but I want to be a dancer. Okay, well, you know, figure that out. I didn't have to deal with that. But yes, change when you go to college if you can, man. Try to learn something, hang out with some people that don't think like you, and try to make sure that you are challenging your own worldviews, because if you don't do it in college, it ain't gonna happen.
Yeah,
man.
HBCUs are like the safest place to mess up.
Yes,
right.
I was gonna drop that later. You just took it from me. You just took it from me. I was gonna end on that.
I was trying to stop you because you was going like it was gonna be it was gonna be Mighty Black Talk monologue, you know, which was all good stuff though. No, it's good, man. It's good.
Yeah. So, hey, real quick, I want to tell everybody hit that share button. Hit the share button, let people know that we're having a conversation. We've seen that it's been fluctuating. People have been on the dance floor. Some people done did the wobble and then they left and stepped back in their seats. Come back on. We're about to try to get the electric slide. We can only do the electric slide when we have 20 people on the live. So we need you. It was up to 24 and then it went back down. So come on, y'all get on, hit that share button, share it to your groups and everything like that. We're about to get into some more fun stuff with Mr. Vernon Blanson. What else did I want to say? Oh yeah, you talked about meeting new people, and then you mentioned like this girlfriend boyfriend thing. Like just do what you there for. So I got some quick questions for you, some fun questions. If you were on the HBCU campus, are you more likely to be friends with Nick Cannon on Drumline or Ron Johnson from Different World, and why?
It'd probably be Ron Johnson. Nick Cannon was he was a bit much. I feel like he'd also get me into a lot of fights. I mean, Ron only got into that one fight at the Hillman game that one time where they tried to spray that slur on his car, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. I'd probably be friends because I consider myself more like Dwayne, so I'd probably be friends with Ron.
Okay. I like that.
So you busting up in people's weddings?
Yeah, absolutely. If my friend needs me to, yeah, I'm down. Let's go. Let's go.
You might have just answered the next question because you said that you were like Dwayne. Because I was about to ask you about this quick entanglement question, and I was going to say, would you date Jada Pinkett from Different World or Willie Gilbert?
Man, knowing what I know now about Jada, or like, I mean, like a different world Jada, or a different world
Jada. Not entanglement Jada.
Oh, well, yeah. No, entanglement Jada got a lot going on. She got a lot going on. Different world Jada for sure.
Okay, so Willie. So even though you more like Dwayne Wayne, you would have dated Jada. Oh, but Jada was his student there. But at the same time, we're not. So he actually did an opposite August. Never mind. It's okay.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll take that offline.
So okay. So we'll get back to it. This is a conversation with all of us, man. So you guys can come in the comments if you have any questions for Vernon about HBCUs, about Prairie View, about anything he's talking about. We're about to get into some things about some traits that he learned from HBCUs that he felt like strengthened him, and then post-college life, and then about his family and university college. So I want you guys, we want this to be interactive. So y'all get in the comments and don't just listen. Don't just watch it like a movie. We want you to come in. And I like to put a disclaimer for any of our frat brothers out there: don't be ignorant on your comments. Yeah, just come in like you got some sense, yeah. You know. Nice. So,
I'm in plug. Let's block out like 5 minutes for you to just plug and you just flex. You know?
Yeah, so I mean, we'll get that out the way real quick. So the podcast, I guess, Instagram stuff and social stuff it's UCollege at UCollege. On Instagram, it is UNIV College BTW on Twitter. So that's at UNIV College BTW. And then my personal stuff is at IOPine11 on everything. So yeah, we did a podcast called University College. Myself and Dr. Michael Coleman and Dr. Curtis Moore. We called it University College for those listening because we all met at the University College dorm complex at Prairie View. So that's what we called it, to harken back to the college days. And we talk about all kinds of stuff, man. I mean, everything. So, I'm willing to answer those questions too for y'all if y'all want to talk about it or whatever, but that's pretty much where you can find me.
Yeah, man. Shout out to University College, man. Y'all doing big things. I've been following. I didn't have my shirt with me on this trip. I'm out of town, but definitely shout out to you guys. You guys are some influencers and good conversation. I love it, man. So y'all keep doing what y'all do. I know schedules are colliding right now, but whenever you guys throw something in, it's fire. So cool. Let's get to the next thing real quick. What would you say? Is there anything specific? It doesn't have to necessarily be a word, but is there anything specific that you say that you can point to and say, without my HBCU, I wouldn't be this, or this is what my HBCU has put inside of me. It's a character trait that has strengthened me or I developed that you can attribute to that.
Yeah, I think the word would be empathetic. Again, It's weird. Again, so for me, I think that I was so naive to stuff outside the little bubble that I was in that I did not know that, the guy staying on the second floor had, issues with his parents had issues with drug abuse and things like this. Is stuff that I just didn't know, man. And so I think what Prairie View did was it introduced me to a lot of adult concepts that you need to know about, right? You got to be empathetic in order to get along with people. You got to be empathetic in order to have a serious relationship. You have to be empathetic in order to be a good person. And I think that was a large lesson. Now that coupled with my wife, she's made most of the difference. But the empathy was first. And then Nigel, he's in your comments saying he wouldn't have been an alpha. I don't believe that. But I will say that Eta Gamma does have at least 40% of the lessons that I learned from college. They're all wrapped up in there, all of it.
That's what's up. That's what's up, man. We also touched on a little bit. We talked about character traits used as a person, and we want to get on that too, because most time people identify themselves with their job versus with who they are. So we like to really get into who you are first. But we do want to get into the professional side. And so you got your degree in political science, right, from Prairie View. Would you say that with this narrative of HBCUs being a second-class institution, would you say that you getting your degree in political science, did you feel competitive within your counterparts from other institutions?
Yeah, I did. But here's the thing. So, and I want to be upfront and transparent about this too with your audience. So I went to PV, I graduated. I went to DePaul University School of Law. I was there 1 year. I failed out, not because it was not competitive and not because I wasn't smart enough and not because Prairie View didn't prepare me. It was because I should have never went, number one. And number two, I didn't study. And so I think this is what's important about, again, learning yourself and going on these journeys that we all do. I should have known and should have taken my decision-making much more seriously about that time, right? Not the not studying. I mean, whatever, but I think I should have never been there. And it was basically a year of me hating being away from home. And so that's what happened. Now to the question that you're asking is, do I think that I was competitive? Hell yes. Because right when I got home from law school, I enrolled in University of Houston Victoria's MBA program and was doing great, right? I went in there every night with PV on my shirt, ready to battle somebody intellectually or just prove to myself that I wasn't stupid. So right. I think that it is important that you stay competitive. And then people will try to, I think people do think that HBCUs maybe produce a second-class education. That's because they don't know the stats, right? Like I wouldn't have thought that HBCUs or any other school for that matter produce that much of a certain type of talent either. If you just don't read about it, how would you know, right? Like how would you know that the SEC has the best football players if you don't watch football? So I think a lot of this is about bringing awareness. That's why your show is so good, because if you can bring some awareness to that stuff and to HBCUs and to the stats, then I think it helps quite a bit.
I think that's yeah, perfect, man.
I
see it.
There you go. Boys will tell on you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you said you weren't studying in law school. You was playing games with Roderick Olin Gibson there. So you probably beat him though. So at least you won at something. You just didn't win while you was at law school at that time.
Right.
But even in that, I think it shows some resilience in that, because you did well at Prairie View. You go to DePaul, you hated it, and you said you failed out, but you didn't come back and just like you weren't defeated. And I'm not saying anybody who goes to HBCU is not defeated, but I'm saying that there's some things that happen, and this can happen to any institution, but you can face these challenges, but you have this community of people that almost don't allow you to be defeated. Like that John has been one of those people for me. He just doesn't allow it. So how can you describe community when it comes even post college, especially the community of the HBCU alumni base?
Yeah, so I got two examples. I guess the first one is I remember when I was in in school, and I was in political science. So we had like the Woolfolk building, right? And I was walking out one day, and it wasn't Dr. Awa. It was another guy. And he walked up to me and he was like, "Are you a political science major?" And I said, "Yeah." And he was like, "Well, I see you all around here all the time." I said, "Okay, cool." He was like, "Do you want some money?" I was like, "Ooh," and so he gave me a scholarship on the spot, right? Like on the spot, gave me a scholarship just like that. And he didn't know I already had one. And I told him I wasn't trying to take money from anybody else. And he was like, "Nah, you can have it." He said, "We have funds that we need to get rid of and we need to use them or else we lose them." So he gave me a scholarship, and the scholarship renewed every year that I was there. Right.
Wow.
I think it was like $1,000. So the community can go down all the way down to a department. It can go at the frat level. It can go to any of that stuff. But then at the same time, we haven't talked about the frat yet, but the fraternity itself has been like a huge source of support at times, right? I call Nigel. Nigel and I talk quite a bit. I talk to DJ probably every other day. I talk to my line brothers all the time. So I think the community that you talk about. Oh, and then we didn't even talk about homecoming, right? So like, here's the thing: for everybody who's listening, if you've never been to a homecoming event at an HBCU, but specifically PV, everybody's there, and it's so much fun, man. At least the parts I remember, it's so much fun. And so I think that community is on display during times like that, right? Bad times, good times. I think everybody can kind of relate to that. It is like John said, it's like a big family reunion every time you're around a bunch of people that went to your school.
Yeah. John, you got something before I go into like his different hats of influence?
No, that's what I was gonna ask. Like, let's get to the good stuff.
Okay.
Not that this other stuff wasn't great. Like, I love it.
Yeah, I got you.
But I just want to get in your business real quick.
Yeah, man. So I posted a picture of us at Drink Houston.
Yeah.
I think it was your birthday too.
27?
Man, that's crazy. It's crazy. But been knowing you for a while, man, and had conversations, and I even put on there. I remember when Facebook had notes, and that was like where you had conversations and stuff like that. And so I've been able to see you develop and grow and everything. But you do wear many hats. So man, let us know who you are professionally, personally, and those hats that you wear. And I want to get more into those hats and the responsibility that comes with them.
Yeah, so I mean, my profession, I guess, is marketing communication. So I work at Carrier, which is most of you know is the HVAC company, but I'm in their global communications team. So, we write a bunch of stuff and it goes out all over the world to our internal stakeholders. So basically our employees. I would argue, if you got to ask me who I am a son, husband, father, friend. That's like the order. The hats that I wear. So I think in another life, I wanted to be an entertainer. I'm not good at acting, but I like to make people laugh. And so a lot of people know that I just post memes all the time and things like that, or videos and stuff. But mixed in there are, encouraging videos, funny videos, stuff that makes me angry. I'm very transparent about my emotions on social media, but I'm also clear to let you know you're seeing specifically what I want you to see, right? Like it's curated intentionally. There's certain things that you should not put out there. But I think it's important. And people have to know that even though I joke a lot, I'm serious all the time too, like all the time. And that's why we started the podcast. We actually started our podcast to kind of confront a lot of the injustices and stuff that were going on. And so, we wanted to be sure that that we talked about that kind of stuff in an open forum. And that's what the podcast allowed us to do. So politics and all of that were actually kind of, I got interested in that from my cousin and from Mike, Michael Coleman. And he's real deep into that. And so is Curtis. And so I started talking to them, and then you kind of expand how you think about things over time. And that's kind of what it led to.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's, and it's funny because you're in communications, and I knew about the law school part, but I know so many people go to law school that aren't in political science. So I never tied those two together. But when you talk about that, there's a responsibility that comes with all of that, with who you are, son, husband, father, friend. you have to manage your time well. Even before we got on here, you like, I put the kids to sleep. You know what I'm saying? And so even when you post things, and I want to get on this, and hopefully I don't go in too many rabbit holes. I'm looking at the questions here that I have for you, but like, what's the reason? Why do you post? Because I know you say you want to make people smile, but man, I've literally, I was like, man, maybe you should start his own news network. Like, because I've literally learned like so much just from your posts. Like, it's almost like people go to CNN and BBC. Like, I'm like, let me go to Vernon and see what he posted today. You know?
Yeah, I had a friend tell me that I treat Facebook like you're supposed to treat Twitter. And I said, okay, well, if people are coming to the page that I have and they can learn some stuff along the way, then I'm fine with that, right? Sometimes you'll see me post something, it'll say submit it without commentary. That means I want you to just see it, you think what you want. Other times I'll submit something, I'll say what I think about it. Other times I'll say, hey, what do y'all think and stuff like that. I think the important thing is that people do not want to like learn stuff anymore, right? They want things kind of like given to them. And so
yeah.
I'll give you a picture. Now you tell me what you think it thinks and let's have a discussion about it. And I'm not judging you either, by the way. That's the other thing. I think that it's important because you're not being judged. If I wanted to judge you, I'd just call you and tell you, hey, you suck, or I tell you what I think. But like, I think that in this case, people want to have an open discussion. I think generally speaking, people like talking to me because I don't judge them. And if I do, I can tell them. And so those discussions go well. And it's allowed some of my friends to meet other friends. You know how we all have like separate circles among our social circles? Well, it's brought mine together. So now I got the friend in Houston who now knows the friend in Florida, right? And they know both sides of me because one person knows how I was in Houston, and one person knows kind of how I've evolved since I've been in Florida. And they can say, oh, okay, there's the link. And so that stuff's good. It's a great discussion for them, man. That's the thing I've learned the most. Yeah.
Yeah. John, I see you took that deep breath before a question. You got something?
No, I was about to say, I as you were talking about UC college and like the political side of things, I'm curious as to, and I asked this to everybody, this idea of or not even the idea, but navigating your individuality, right? So Vernon, the person, right? Outside of any hats, outside of any responsibility, just the Vernon whoever you are, right? Your identity versus Vernon, the son, father, friend, husband, Black male responsible for cultivating learning experiences, and, you know, all of those types of things. So my question is, like, one, do you feel there is a divide, right? Like, are they separate things, right? And then two, how do you reconcile those pieces?
So no, I don't. The hats thing is for different interests, right? But your question is, I mean, at least to me, the way I'm interpreting it is who am I? And so I don't have to reconcile. I think they're all together. So for example, right, like the way that I raise my kids, the way I try to raise my kids reflects my value system. And that's the value system that I try to have discussions with my wife. Now, she doesn't have the same value system that I have necessarily, right? She was raised differently. She thinks differently than I do. I would say the biggest discrepancy is with my parents, because they're from a different generation. They're from a generation that I think for them, they don't understand, I think, why our generation is as vocal as we are. So I think their kind of commentary is, oh, well, this happened to us and we sort of just, either it wasn't that bad or we just dealt with it, right? I don't think they get sometimes why it's so upsetting. Because like, even with my podcast, they listen to it and they were just like, I can't believe you said that. I was like, well, what are we supposed to say? What am I supposed to say for an hour, right? Like, this is the reason why we did it. This is wrong or this is right. We should talk about that. And then you can let those discussions happen. So the reconciliation I think that you're talking about is only for people, I think, who have to be different people around other different groups. Thankfully, I haven't had that problem.
So
some people don't like that.
So what I mean is more like you, Vernon, the citizen of Black America, right? Like, and the responsibility that comes along with that, right? Or the assumed responsibilities and expectations that come, right? So, example, I'm super black, real black. I want everybody to feel my blackness before I even walk into the room, right? But I'm also like a whole other type of person, right? And so, like, some days I want to get up and just not be responsible for black people, like not care that whatever I says has any impact on the black narrative or the black fight or the black movement, or from a university standpoint, from a business standpoint, right? Like any of those things. So my question is more so around that, especially because you bring up university college and talk about like how important having that platform to have these difficult conversations, or unpopular conversations, or maybe controversial conversations, whatever, are. So like, what is that? Because that Vernon may not necessarily be the Vernon that shows up in all of these other spaces, right? Like,
no, I feel you. And now I understand your question a little bit better. So I'll say this: we always say that black people are not a monolith, right? We say that until you say something like, let me think, like you should vote for Joe Biden, right? Then all of a sudden, it's like this monster argument, right? So if that's what you mean, I apologize for not understanding that originally. Yeah, that part's difficult. That part is difficult because I think sometimes you want to be an independent thinker, and when you are, you might get blasted for being that way. Also, independent doesn't mean you're right. It just means you just think differently, right? It does not mean that you're right about what you're saying. It just means that you think differently. And so, yeah, it's difficult to do that. Fellas, give me 1 second. Let me turn this light on real quick, okay? Because I don't want the computer to cut off. Hold on.
You good. No, that was a good question, John. While he's turning it on, shout out to APMG. My degree is black. John got his My Degree is Black shirt on. I'm in Kansas City, so I want to shout out. They have a Black Lives Essential since 1619 shirt they came out with. So that's the church we got married at, actually. All People Matter to God is what they represent. So I want to shout them out real quick. Getting back to what Vernon was sharing, and you were talking about like being an independent thinker, and what that looks like politically. Because you are so politically vocal, and I hear the black community as a whole, and like you said, that's just not one thing. That's a plethora of what that looks like, saying that you should vote this way, you should vote this way, go out and vote. I was just talking to my brother-in-law today, and I was like, I want to say you're responsible, you, Nigel, and a couple other people. Before I go, I can't go. I've missed a vote before, but I can't go vote unless I spend my due diligence. It takes me 3 to 4 hours of studying before I go vote. And so when it comes to like your political responsibility and what you share and sharing your views, why is this so important to you? Because I see you do it in university college, you do it personally. So one, why is it important to you? And does it actually, when people disagree, are they able to be disagreeable to the point that y'all can still be yourselves? Like you and your wife, like y'all might not have the same thing. Like, so what does that look like with you being such an influence in your political views?
I think the first question is, why is it important? So now, is there echo again? It went away. So right now, I think it's important because the person that we have in office is a danger to society, right? We can all agree on that. I don't care who you vote for. But he's a danger to society, and so we need to get him out of office. And the only way you can do that is if you vote. And since there's one primary opponent, you should vote for that primary opponent, right? John's question a minute ago was interesting because I keep getting killed by people for saying go vote for Biden, as if I'm saying that he's the better candidate out of all the other people we had. And all I've ever said from the beginning on that specific topic was he is the better candidate to win, right? That's all I've ever said. I don't care about anything but winning right now. So anyway, to what you were saying though, I think that I'm all open to having open discussions about anybody and anything. As long as we keep the discussions respectful, it's all good. Like my wife and I don't really share the same, political views. I mean, we're both like, liberal and all that, but like, she believes, for example, I'm gonna get killed, she ain't listening, but like she might believe that Biden's VP should be like a black woman. Okay. I don't, but that's fine, right? Like we could talk about that. She said her reasons why, I said my reasons why. So I don't have a problem with that. And also I'm open to being persuaded. Like I don't think that I'm right. And this is where, like, if you've had a conversation with Mike, right? Coleman, or like Coleman, John. Mike Coleman is my line brother, our frat brother. He listens to podcasts. Huh?
Light skin Mike.
No, not that. That's Mike Hunter.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
He listens to podcasts on like triple speed, and he reads like one book every week. I mean, he has like a photographic memory, so he just ingests details. So when you talk to him about a subject, he goes real in depth, but it helps you figure out like what you want to think, right? And so that's, Jamie, to your question, that's how I could try to do these little mental exercises. Man, I talk to him. And and talk to Curtis. They have two different styles. Curtis will yell at you and cuss you out, and then Mike will give you like facts and stuff. And then I'm able to kind of figure out, okay, now I know where I want to stand on this. And so that's kind of how we do it, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing. And John and I were talking about this the other day. That's one thing I really appreciate about you guys. For me, I hadn't seen a lot of Black people having disagreements and not being able to walk away peacefully. Like you guys argue to the T on live or whatever, and then y'all still cool. Like usually people want to go to blows. And I'm not saying you never wanted to do that, but I think it shows another side of Black people. Because again, there's this narrative that, oh, you're the angry Black man or this, that, and the other, where I mean, even in the corporate world, people used to say, I don't want to go talk to Jamie. I'm smiling all the time, but for some reason, there's this narrative that Black people can't have disagreements and all these different things. And so I really appreciate that you guys bring that layer of, we don't have to agree. We can still be friends. That doesn't make us not care for each other and still talk about those different things. And so that people can see different sides versus, hey, you Black, you need to go vote Democrat. like, okay,
Exactly.
The problem is you got to vote between two different parties to begin with when you got 50 million different types of people that live here. But I think that goes to stuff that we've talked about before, Jay. And I've said many times is the idea of multi-generational thinking, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and being able to think outside of you, which is why I always ask the question about reconciling being yourself versus being a part of this community, right? Because like you are you as a part of your family that lives in one household, right? Like, and then you are part of your immediate family, so to speak, and then this extended version of that family, your fraternity, like all of these circles, right? And while you as an individual get to show up in all of these circles, all of those circles don't necessarily get a chance to show up within you. So there's like that reconciliation, that happens. But to your point, I get so let's make our next the best decision, right?
Yes, that's it.
Decision that we can make is to remove this person. Once we get that done, then let's look at our next best decision after that. And I think a lot of times with people in general, especially with Black people, you're talking over 400 years of oppression and slavery and all of those things that happen, right? Like we don't want any more long-term, like we don't need no long-term fixes. We need immediate stuff, right? Like we're tired of waiting.
Well, it seems like everybody gets to vote their best interest but us, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, are you voting for your best interest, or are we voting to get somebody out of office? And I mean, right now, I'm voting to get somebody out of office. But I mean, if Blacks are not monolithic, then should we all be voting for the same thing? I mean, I don't know. It's a legit question. Like, if somebody makes $30,000 a year and somebody makes $250,000 a year, I'm not even sure they have the same problems in life. So should they be voting the same way? Just because they're Black, should they be voting the same way? And this isn't discussion. I don't want to derail the show. I'm just asking. This is the kind of stuff that I think people need to really think about, right? Like reconciling that if you're in a certain level, do you also have to vote as if you're not, right? Like, do you have to vote for everybody else? I'd argue yes, right? I'd argue you have to, or you should be persuaded to, because you're trying to help the greater good.
I think that there's a different way to help the greater good, though, right? Like, so I agree to that, right? Like, one way is in voting, right? Okay. But if I can vote differently, right, and reap more benefits, right, than voting with the masses of if at $250,000, my vote for somebody else makes a better financial or whatever move for me than if I were at $30,000. But then I can take that come up and then help $30,000 a year earners, right? Like, I think that there are ways to do it. So to the point of Black people not being a monolith, I don't think anything is, right? Everything has layers. And so if you are a $30,000 earner, like telling the $250,000 person, hey, vote like me, it might be your only perspective, right? Because you don't have an extra $220,000 sitting at your disposal that you can go use to impact all of these other people. You know what I'm saying? So for that person, it could be I need to keep this money, because if I don't keep this money, then the money that I donate for this scholarship or the whatever that I do in this capacity, or, you know, and you don't really know that unless you have all of these different conversations. Exactly. However, do we have time to have all of these different conversations? Like, what's the quickest fix? Even though, like, we always get back to a quick fix, even though we want to make multi-generational decisions, right? And I think that just, if I'm angry about anything about my entire experience in America as a Black man, it is that the difficulty and almost impossibility of being able to make multi-generational decisions, because there's so many, like the entire house is burning down and you don't have time to go get a fire hose. Like, you have to pick what room you're going to go save. Like, that grinds my gears, because I really want to take some other things. But yeah.
Y'all
I know we derailed Jamie and whole flow. Jamie had a whole
no, y'all good.
Dang, I'm missing out.
It really, I guess at the end of the day too, with you knowing that people are looking at you, man, from the HBCU aspect, from your wife, from the people at your job, from people that you've met in different walks of life, and John kind of talked to this a little bit, but does the responsibility, do you ever get tired? Is there any fatigueness, like, because I mean, people, you're an influencer. You might not have 100,000 followers, but the people that do follow you, like, it's probably the proportion, it's probably how people like looking at you. Does that ever get tiring or fatigue, or what does that look like for you, and how do you handle that?
No, I think the only thing that I really try to look at is there just a purpose to what you're doing, right? And that's really it. Like, what is it that you're trying to say? Like, what is the voice that you're trying to have for this particular thing? And if I can do that, then I'm fine. So the bigger thing is, don't embarrass my wife. That's the bigger issue, right? Like, okay, I can post memes and stuff all day, but like, I know like how far the memes can go before like I get a call from her, like, yo, why did you do that? Or, you know, these kind of things. And so that's really it. I'll never forget when I was in after law school, like, when I say 2 years afterwards, this girl that I went to law school with, I posted something on Facebook about, I think like Howard turned their school flag upside down to signify that there was an SOS in the country, right? Because Black men were getting killed. This is like when that stuff kind of just, I don't want to say it just started happening. This is when the news first started really picking up on it. So Howard turned their flag upside down. And I was like, yeah, you know, this is this and that. And she put on there, I didn't know that you were so like militant or something like that. And I was just like, oh my God, like, you don't know the right people. Like, Facebook militancy is not militancy, first of all, right? Like, I got friends that got pepper sprayed and stuff, right? So let's be sure that but she's white. So to her, I mean, anything that's going against the United States of America to her might be militant. Plus I'm Black, so that adds more onto it. And so that's the thing. I have a lot of friends who I interact with on a daily basis who are not Black, and I want them to see it. That's my real fear. I'm like, I've had friends that tell me they don't see color, and I'm like, you ain't my friend then, right? You should see that. That is important. So Jamie, that's what I want people to see. I am Black, and I do have these concerns. Don't think because you know, I sound a certain way, or because you know, I sit next to you at work, or things like that. Don't think that, one, that I think I'm better than anybody else, and then two, that I believe that I don't have issues, that are important to me, right? I think that's what happens. I think we live in a time where people think because they go to work and they sit next to people, they know people. You don't know what these cats are dealing with when they go home. You don't know what's important to them. And I had a lady at a job that I worked at, and she told me, "Oh, you're not like those black people on TV. You're different." I was like, "What the?" I got upset. And that was a wake up call, because I was like, "See, if you think that you can actually say that to me, that means I have not shown you enough of the angry side of me in this professional environment." So then I did, and then we were good.
Yeah.
Right? She never said it again. But I mean, this is what it's about. You have to let people know how you feel about stuff, so they don't have to guess, and so they know not to try you on other stuff ever again.
Yeah. Cool, man. That's good stuff. It's a ton of stuff in here. I appreciate you sharing with us today, man. We're about at our time limit. I know people have short attention spans, so I don't want to go too far. But I do want to ask you, this should be a shorter question. You said you got to know what voice you want to have. What's that voice for you? What do you want to, as Vernon, like what do you want to be? What do you want to be known for? What's the voice you want to have with people around you?
If I died tomorrow, I would want people to say, "Hey, he tried to entertain, and he tried to make me think about stuff that I hadn't thought about before." Disagreed with him all the time, but he did make me laugh, and he made me think. And I'd want my kids to say he was a great dad, my wife to say he was a good husband or a great husband, and that's it. I can leave this earth with that if those are the things that are said about me.
Cool. And your vacuum lines and your mopping is on point, man.
So we didn't even get into the quirks about me being OCD and all that stuff. We didn't even get into that.
Yeah, man. No, that's what's up. So we're going to. I don't think John, you see anything in the comments. I think we're good to kind of end the show here.
I see a few comments, but I think it's probably go in offline. It'll take us another hour.
Yeah.
I'm trying
to. That's your cousin, huh?
Post.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we go ahead, John.
Oh, I'm saying we're all good though. Let's
okay.
Land this.
Cool. So we usually end the show with tell people your name again, whether what you graduated from, what organization you're part of, just who you are, right? And then with My Degree is Black. So John, I'm gonna let you start today because you're on my screen. You're the first person. So
okay.
And Vernon, you'll end it.
All right. My name is J. Albert Nichols. I love us a whole damn lot, and my degree is Black.
My name is Jamie Latin Sims. My Black life is essential, and my degree is Black.
My name is Vernon Blanson. I love Prairie View. I'm an alpha, and my degree is Black.